Dr. Abigail Roberts stomped the snow off her boots as she entered the research station, muttering curses about Alaska's weather that would make a sailor blush. The quantum communications array had frozen. Again. Third time this week, and NASA was breathing down her neck for results. At least the northern lights were beautiful tonight, painting the sky in sheets of green and purple. "Coffee's ready," called out Dr. James Murphy, her research partner and self-proclaimed caffeination specialist. He didn't look up from his bank of monitors, their blue glow reflecting off his thick-rimmed glasses. "And before you ask, yes, I already tried defrosting the array. Twice." Abby grabbed her quantum physics, because classical physics was too easy, mug, and inhaled the aromatic steam. "We need to modify the thermal housing." Again. The superconductors can't maintain coherence at these temperatures. And a sound cut through the quiet hum of computers and heaters, a sound that shouldn't exist. The quantum array, supposedly frozen solid, was receiving something. "James," Abby said slowly, "please tell me you're running a test sequence." "Nope." He was already typing furiously. "Signals coming through on all channels. This isn't background radiation or interference. This is..." He trailed off, staring at his screen. Abby leaned over his shoulder. The incoming data was perfectly structured. Too perfectly structured to be natural. And it was being received through their quantum communications array, which should have been impossible unless someone else had built a quantum transmitter. Someone who wasn't human. The message repeated, growing clearer as their systems automatically refined the signal. "Emergency Protocol 7 Alpha 3. They're expanding. Stars help us. The Death Worlders are expanding. Containment has failed. Request immediate." The transmission cut off in a burst of static. "Death Worlders," James whispered. "What the hell are Death Worlders?" Abby's coffee mug slipped from suddenly numb fingers, shattering on the floor. "Call Washington. Now." But before James could reach for the phone, the door burst open. Men in black tactical gear poured in, weapons raised. Behind them came a woman in a crisp business suit, her expression grave. "Dr. Roberts, Dr. Murphy," she said, flashing a badge. "I'm Agent Reeves, NSA. You've just intercepted a classified transmission. We need you to come with us." "Classified?" Abby's scientific mind raced ahead of her mouth. "You knew. You already knew about them. How long?" Agent Reeves's slight hesitation told Abby everything. "That's need-to-know information, Doctor. Need to know." Abby laughed, a sharp, harsh sound. "We just proved quantum communication is possible across interstellar distances. We just received proof of alien life, and they're terrified of something they call Death Worlders. I'd say we need to know." James raised his hand like a student in class. Quick question. Are we the Death Worlders?" Agent Reeves sighed. "Follow me. Both of you. What I'm about to show you never leaves this facility." They were led to their own conference room, now filled with hastily erected displays showing satellite imagery, data streams, and what looked like alien ships lurking at the edges of the solar system. 8 months ago, Agent Reeves began. "We detected them detecting us. They've been watching, monitoring our development. They're particularly interested in our technological progression rate. Because we went from splitting the atom to quantum mechanics in less than a century," Abby breathed. "We're advancing too fast for their comfort." "Precisely." Agent Reeves brought up a new image, a comparison of Earth with other habitable worlds. What they called Death Worlders are species that evolved on high-gravity, high-danger planets. Us. We're stronger, faster, more durable than most spacefaring races, and now we're expanding. So that transmission, James adjusted his glasses nervously, was a warning about us. Agent Reeves's expression was grim. "Congratulations, doctors. You've just confirmed what we feared. The galaxy knows we're coming, and they're terrified." Abby stared at the data scrolling across the screens, her mind already racing with implications. What happens now? A new alarm blared. One of the monitors showed multiple objects decelerating from faster-than-light travel, heading straight for Earth. Agent Reeves checked her phone as it buzzed with updates. Now we find out if they're here to welcome us to the galactic community, or stop us before we can join it. The alien ships hung in the sky above New York like giant obsidian teardrops, their surfaces reflecting the panicked emergency lights below. Abby stood in Times Square with James and Agent Reeves, watching the largest holoprojection she'd ever seen materialize between the skyscrapers. The alien that appeared looked almost comedically bureaucratic, multiple arms clutching various tablets, wearing what appeared to be the galaxy's most boring suit, with gray skin and compound eyes that somehow managed to look disapproving. "People of Earth," it began in perfectly synthesized English, "I am Administrative Overseer Vatel of the Galactic Council. You have two options: join galactic civilization under our guidance, or face permanent quarantine. You have 1 hour to..." Abby couldn't help it. The stress of the past week, the absurdity of the situation, and the alien's condescending tone all combined into one response. She burst out laughing. Vitel's compound eyes blinked in confusion. The holoprojection actually stuttered. "I'm sorry," Abby wheezed, wiping tears from her eyes, "but did you really just travel who knows how many light years to give us a join-or-die ultimatum? Come down here and try it." "Dr. Roberts," Agent Reeves hissed, "this is a first contact situation." "Dr. Abigail Roberts," Vitel's voice had changed, showing the first hint of emotion. "Uncertainty. Our records indicate you recently intercepted our secure quantum communications. Your species shouldn't have that capability for at least another century." "Yeah, well, we're full of surprises." Abby stepped forward, professional training kicking in. "Look, you want to talk? Let's talk. But not like this. Come down here. Meet us face to face. We've got coffee." Another voice chittered in the background of the transmission. Vitel turned aside, engaged in rapid conversation, then faced Earth again. "Our environmental analysis indicates your atmosphere is highly toxic, your gravity would crush most species, and your temperature variations are lethal. We've got environmental suits at the ready." Agent Reeves cut in smoothly, recovering her composure. "And Dr. Roberts' research facility in Alaska is equipped for delegation-level meetings." "Alaska?" Vettel consulted one of their tablets. "Your frozen wasteland, where humans deliberately maintain research stations despite conditions that would kill most sentient species." "It's not that bad," James piped up. "We've got hot chocolate." 12 hours later, Abby watched in amazement as the alien delegation, wrapped in environment suits that looked like walking space heaters, cautiously entered the research station. Vitel led the group, their multiple arms now clutching scanning devices that whirred and beeped constantly. "Please," Vitel said through their suits' speakers, "explain this hot chocolate substance. Our scans indicate it contains methylxanthine alkaloids known to be toxic to several species." "It's a drink that makes you happy," Abby said, preparing a cup with mini marshmallows. "Look, I'll demonstrate." The aliens watched in horror as she drank the toxic substance. Their horror turned to fascination as she explained about marshmallows, which led to explaining camping, which led to explaining why humans deliberately sleep outdoors for fun. "Let me understand," Vitel said slowly. "You intentionally lead your shelters to sleep in dangerous conditions while consuming toxic substances heated over fire. And this is entertainment." "Wait until I tell you about roller coasters," James grinned. Vitel turned to their assistants. "Modify the report to the council. Humanity isn't expanding because they're aggressive. They're expanding because they're insane. We prefer adventurous." Abby corrected, offering another cup of hot chocolate. "Now, about that ultimatum. Counter-proposal. We join galactic civilization as equals, sharing our quantum communication breakthroughs, and you share your faster-than-light technology. We get to explore the stars, you get to study how we achieved quantum communication so quickly. Deal. Vettel stared at the hot chocolate, then at their scanning devices, then at Abby's unwavering smile. The Council won't like this. The Council sent you to contain us, Abby pointed out. Instead, you're about to discover something far more important about humans. And what's that? We're really, really good at making friends. She raised her mug in a toast. Welcome to Earth. Abby's first day as Earth's premier xenanthropologist started with a headache and ended with an interstellar incident. In between, she learned that explaining humanity to aliens was like teaching quantum physics to a fish. Technically possible, but prone to explosive misunderstandings. No, Ambassador Crifax, she said for the third time, rubbing her temples. Humans don't actually hibernate during the Christmas season. We just watch movies about a magical gift giver while consuming our body weight in cookies. The Regelian ambassador's crystalline form sparkled with confusion. But our cultural analysis shows a planet-wide obsession with this Santa figure. Shops display his image. Children write him petitions. Adults invoke his name in song. It's complicated. Abby pulled up Netflix on the embassy's holoscreen. Here, let me show you. 3 hours later, she deeply regretted this decision. Incredible. Crifax's crystalline body vibrated with excitement, sending rainbow refractions across the embassy walls. A benevolent oversight entity who rewards good behavior with material goods, maintains surveillance on all sentient young, and commands a workforce of specialized beings. We must implement this immediately. No, wait. But Crifax was already sending an emergency transmission to the Galactic Council. Down the hall, James wasn't having much better luck. He'd been tasked with explaining human military naming conventions to the Council's Defense Committee. You name your most powerful warships after small furry animals. The Vexcar military attaché looked like he was having an aneurysm, if his species could have those. And mythological figures, James added helpfully. The U.S. Mr. Whiskers is actually part of the Fluffy Death Squadron, alongside the U.S. Tibbles and the U.S. Commodore Snuggles. These are your most feared vessels. Oh yes, the U.S. Mr. Whiskers once made a Dralaxian battle fleet retreat just by appearing in system, something about the name being psychologically incomprehensible. The attaché's scales turned a fascinating shade of green. You're saying your most powerful weapons platforms are named after creatures humans keep as companions. Pets, James corrected. Would you like to see pictures of my cat? Meanwhile, Abby was dealing with the aftermath of Crifax's report to the Council. Her quantum comm was buzzing with messages from a dozen species, all demanding clarification on Christmas protocols. The Arthrosians wanted to know if they could substitute their larvae for elves. The mechanoids were calculating optimal chimney dimensions for their sectors. Dr. Roberts, Agent Reeves appeared at her door, looking harried. We have a situation. The Regelians are attempting to establish a polar monitoring station to track good and bad behaviors across their space. It's just a holiday. Abby protested. A celebration. With cookies. About that, the hive mind of Betelgeuse has declared cookies a controlled substance after their drones refuse to return to work, demanding something called milk and snickerdoodles. Abby slumped in her chair. On her desk, a gift from Betel's delegation sat unopened, a universal translator with access to the Galactic cultural database. She powered it up, curious about how humanity was now being described. The entry read, Humans, a death-world species characterized by paradoxical behaviors, including but not limited to naming weapons after comfort objects, celebrating imaginary gift-givers, consuming toxic substances for pleasure, and an inability to provide consistent explanations for their own customs. Warning: exposure to human culture may cause existential crisis in logical species. Her quantum comm chimed again. Crifax had apparently discovered Easter. Dr. Roberts. The ambassador's excited voice filled her office. Your species has an omniscient entity, this one associated with egg-laying mammals and chocolate distribution. Brilliant. The council must. Abby cut the transmission and turned to Agent Reeves. Get me the strongest coffee you can find. And then I need to write a cultural advisory before someone discovers Halloween. Too late. Her screen lit up with an urgent message from the Vexcar. XXP IMEDIATLY. Why do humans dress their offspring as fearsome creatures and demand tribute in the form of sugar-based substances? Abby took a deep breath and began typing. RD. Human Festivals. A comprehensive guide to not panicking about Earth customs. She had a feeling this was going to be a very long day. The Morgan Roberts wedding was supposed to be perfect. Lisa, Abby's sister, had planned everything down to the millisecond. The venue, a newly established human colony on Proxima, featured Earth-imported cherry blossoms and a view of 3 moons. The table settings were antimatter clean. Even the quantum-entangled communication arrays were decorated with white ribbons for the occasion. Stop fidgeting with your dress, Abby told her sister as they prepared in the colony's grand hall. You look beautiful. I just want everything to be perfect. Lisa smoothed her white dress for the 100th time. First human wedding in another solar system. The aliens are watching, you know. They were indeed. The ceremony had attracted diplomatic observers from 17 species, all eager to understand this human pair bonding ritual. Krithax was already crying crystalline tears of joy, and the ceremony hadn't even started. That's when the Vexcar attack fleet dropped out of hyperspace. The first plasma bolt struck just as Lisa was about to walk down the aisle. The shield generators kicked in automatically, but the explosion still rattled the windows. Wedding guests ducked under tables as emergency alerts blared. No, Lisa said, her voice deadly calm. Absolutely not. Ma'am, a colonial defense officer rushed in. We need to evacuate. The Vexcar fleet. I have been planning this wedding for 2 years. Lisa cut him off, picking up her bouquet. I picked these flowers from Earth. The cake was quantum transported this morning. I am getting married today. Abby recognized that tone. It was the same one Lisa used when they were kids and someone tried to cut in line at Disney World. That kid ended up apologizing and buying them both ice cream. Lisa. Abby started. Maybe we should. But Lisa was already marching toward the colony's defense center, her wedding dress trailing behind her. The assembled alien diplomats watched in fascination as she commandeered the command console. Attention Vexcar fleet. She broadcast on all frequencies. You have exactly 10 seconds to explain why you're interrupting my wedding. The Vexcar commander's reptilian face appeared on screen. This colony violates treaty section. Wrong answer. Lisa turned to the wedding guests, who were emerging from under the tables. Ladies, gentlemen, and various gender non-specific beings, would you help me explain Earth wedding traditions to our uninvited guests? What followed would be recorded in Galactic Council archives as the incident. The Vexcar ground forces, upon breaching the colony's secondary barriers, found themselves pelted with rice, a traditional Earth weapon, according to later Vexcar intelligence reports. Their advanced combat AI was confused by humans charging their lines while carrying pieces of cake. The humans are utilizing some form of ceremonial combat formation. One Vexcar commander reported frantically. They're singing something about chickens and dancing. The bridesmaids proved particularly effective, using their bouquets as improvised clubs. The flower girl, a precocious 7-year-old, managed to reprogram a Vexcar combat drone to play Here Comes the Bride. The turning point came when Lisa, still in her wedding dress, commandeered a defense turret. She took out 3 Vexcar dropships while shouting, I planned this wedding through 3 gravitational anomalies and a temporal shift. I will not reschedule. By the time Galactic Council peacekeepers arrived, they found the Vexcar ground forces sitting at the wedding reception, awkwardly eating cake while the bride and groom had their first dance. We don't understand, the Vexcar commander told Abby, watching Lisa and her new husband waltz among the scattered debris. Our tactical simulations never accounted for this response. That's the thing about humans, Abby said, handing him a piece of cake. We're at our most dangerous when you threaten our celebrations. You're lucky this wasn't a quinceanera. The commander poked at the cake suspiciously. This is some form of victory feast. No, Abby smiled. This is just the beginning of the party. Wait until they start the chicken dance. The Vexcar fleet retreated shortly after. Their after-action report contained only one line. Caution. Humans become exponentially more effective in combat when formally dressed. Avoid attacking during ceremonies. Lisa got her perfect wedding after all. And if the Vexcar commander caught the bouquet during the toss, well, that was just another Earth tradition they'd have to learn to understand. This isn't a normal war anymore, General Martinez announced to the Emergency Council. The Vexcar just banned all human transmissions in their space after something called a Rick-roll crashed their primary defense networks. Abby tried to keep a straight face. James didn't even bother trying. In our defense, James said, wiping tears from his eyes, we didn't think they'd integrate the video directly into their neural networks. Who knew? Never gonna give you up could cause a cascading AI failure. The war room's holographic display showed the current state of the conflict. Traditional military engagements had given way to something the Vexcar hadn't prepared for. Human psychological warfare, internet style. Report from the digital front, Agent Reeves announced, entering with a fresh stack of tablets. Our latest meme offensive has their command structure in chaos. They can't figure out why their troops keep responding to orders with, "This is the way," and refusing to remove their helmets. Abby scrolled through the latest intelligence. The Vexcar, a species that had evolved with perfect hierarchical order, were facing something their billion-year-old civilization had never encountered. Trolling. Ma'am, a communications officer called out, "You need to see this. Someone just sent their supreme commander a collection of cat videos." The room fell silent. On the main screen, they watched as the feared leader of the Vexcar military, known for destroying entire star systems, spent 6 hours straight watching cats knock things off tables. But here's the real weapon, Abby said, standing up. I've assembled a special task force. People with the highest psychological resistance scores we've ever recorded. People who've stared into the abyss of human nature and emerged stronger. Special forces, Martins asked. Better. Abby grinned. Retail workers. 20 years experience minimum. The team filed in. Their name tags gleamed with deadly efficiency. Their smiles contained multitudes of suppressed rage. Karen from Minneapolis, Abby introduced. Once talked down an entitled customer during Black Friday. Steve from Boston survived 15 years of drive-through window duty. And our secret weapon, Patricia from Texas. She's worked customer service so long, she can deliver devastating emotional damage while maintaining perfect policy compliance. The team deployed to the front lines. Their first engagement with Vexcar forces went down in history. I'm terribly sorry you feel that way about Earth's expansion, Patricia told the Vexcar commander, her smile never wavering. Would you like to speak to my supervisor about your concerns? The commander, faced with weaponized passive aggression, actually stuttered. I understand you've been conquering worlds for eons, Karen added, her voice dripping with retail cheerfulness. But I'm afraid your planet-destroying death ray is past its return date. Have you considered store credit? The Vexcar's rigid command structure began to crumble. Their troops, exposed to customer service voice for the first time, showed signs of unprecedented psychological stress. If I could just put you on hold for a moment, Steve told a Vexcar battle group before playing elevator music through their command frequency. They retreated after 3 hours. The final blow came when Patricia pulled out the ultimate weapon, replying to all Vexcar threats with, per my previous transmission. Their military doctrine had no defense against passive-aggressive email etiquette. UPDAT, the AI monitoring Vexcar communications announced. They're attempting to develop countermeasures against human retail tactics. However, they just discovered what a Karen haircut is, and their cultural analysts are in complete disarray. The war ended not with a bang, but with a perfectly polite request to fill out a customer satisfaction survey. The Vexcar Supreme Commander, still watching cat videos, signed the peace treaty without looking up. "I don't understand," General Martinez said later, reviewing the after-action reports. "We defeated their billion-year-old empire with memes and retail workers. The thing about perfect hierarchical societies," Abby explained, "is they never develop resistance to chaos. They never needed to deal with someone asking to speak to the manager of their invasion fleet." And the cat videos. "Everyone loves cat videos," James said. "Even genocidal alien empires, apparently." The final peace terms included a clause requiring Earth to share its cat video archives with the Vexcar Empire. It was classified as a strategic resource. Humanity had won its first interstellar war not with superior firepower, but with the most dangerous weapons in human history: passive aggression, retail therapy, and cats being cats. Welcome to Cooking Across the Cosmos. Abby nearly dropped her coffee watching the Vexcar Supreme Commander, now wearing a Kiss the Cook apron over his battle armor, address the camera. "Today, we're making something called pizza, a human warrior's feast that combines all 5 food groups into one circular battlefield of flavor." 6 months after the war, and this was somehow normal. The cooking show had the highest ratings in 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. "You know," James said, scrolling through his tablet, "the Vexcar are taking to Earth culture like sharks to blood-filled water. Their newest warships have cat beds installed on the bridge." The rehabilitation of the Vexcar Empire had become Abby's pet project. Currently, she was organizing the grand opening of the first interspecies university on what used to be a Vexcar military training world. Professor Roberts, a young Vexcar student, approached her office, clutching textbooks. "I have questions about my course selection. You listed me for Introduction to Human Literature and Basic Engineering. Isn't that inefficient? Shouldn't I specialize in one discipline?" "Sit down, Takar." Abby smiled. "Let me tell you about something we call liberal arts education. The concept of studying multiple subjects simultaneously nearly caused a second war. The Vexcar Education Council called it mental chaos. Then someone introduced them to Leonardo da Vinci's works." "You mean," the education minister had sputtered, "one human was an artist, inventor, scientist, and writer. Voluntarily." Now the university's motto was "Embrace the Chaos," written in both English and Vexcar battle script. The real breakthrough came during the university's first open mic night. A Vexcar warrior poet, inspired by human stand-up comedy, delivered a routine about the absurdity of their former military protocols. "So there I was," he growled in perfect comedic timing, "filling out Form X-789B for the destruction of an inferior species, when this human sends me something called a wholesome meme. Now I have 3 therapy pets and a baking blog." The audience, a mix of humans and aliens, roared with laughter. Even the former Supreme Commander, now the galaxy's most famous cooking show host, wiped a tear from his reptilian eye. But not everything was smooth sailing. Abby still had to deal with regular cultural incidents. "Dr. Roberts," a panicked assistant burst into her office. "The Vexcar Engineering Department is demanding we explain why humans say yeet before throwing things." Before she could respond, another crisis emerged. The Martial Arts Club tried to teach the Vexcar about pro wrestling, James reported, trying not to laugh. Now they think The Rock is Earth's supreme leader. They've started ending diplomatic transmissions with, "If you smell what Tigdihi Rockcake is cooking." The university's cultural exchange program had evolved in ways no one expected. Vexcar battle meditation chambers were being converted into game rooms. Their fearsome war chants now included references to SpongeBob SquarePants. "Update from the language department," her AI assistant chimed in. "The Vexcar have formally added brew to their diplomatic lexicon. The final sign that things had changed came during the university's first interspecies food festival. The Supreme Commander, still in his cooking show apron, presented Abby with a dish. "We've combined your Earth pizza with traditional Vexcar battle rations," he announced proudly. "We call it the Supreme Victory Special. The pepperoni is arranged in traditional conquest patterns, but the crust is stuffed with cheese." Abby tried it. It was surprisingly good, even if the pepperoni did spell out "surrender now" in ancient Vexcar. "You know," the commander said, watching humans and Vexcar students share meals and memes, "we spent 1 billion years perfecting order. But you humans, you taught us the power of chaos, of creativity, of putting cheese inside the bread. Why did we ever want to conquer you when we could just hang out?" "That's humanity's real superpower," Abby replied, reaching for another slice. "We don't just make friends, we make friends by force. Resistance is futile. You're getting a birthday party whether you like it or not." The commander grinned, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. "Speaking of which, when is this Christmas happening again? I've been practicing my ho-ho-ho." The Galactic Council's emergency session was interrupted by the sound of purring. Several council members glanced nervously at High Counselor Vatel, who was attempting to hide a kitten under their formal robes. "This is exactly what we're here to discuss," announced First Speaker Tilax, their tentacles writhing in agitation. "The human contamination has gone too far." Abby, attending as Earth's cultural ambassador, struggled to keep a straight face. The kitten had managed to climb onto Vitel's head. "Our latest reports are disturbing," Tilax continued, activating the chamber's holographic display. "The silicon-based lithoids have begun what they call gardening. They're forming emotional attachments to rocks. They're called pet rocks." Abby muttered under her breath. James elbowed her to be quiet. "The Centaurians, a species that once prided themselves on militant minimalism, are now collecting." Tilax checked their notes in disgust. "Stuffed representations of Earth organisms. They call them plushies." The display showed a Centaurian battle cruiser. Its bridge was filled with beanie babies. Even the energy beings of Antares have been affected. Tilax's tentacles were practically tying themselves in knots. They've become addicted to human entertainment programs. They're manifesting physical forms just to watch something called soap operas. "Days of Our Lives is very compelling," Vatel defended, still trying to pretend there wasn't a kitten batting at their ceremonial headpiece. "And now this." Tilax projected an image that made the entire council chamber gasp. A Vexcar colony just elected a human pet as their governor. The image showed Mr. Whiskers, Abby's tabby cat, sitting on a gubernatorial throne. He was wearing a tiny ceremonial sash. In our defense, Abby stood up. Mr. Whiskers ran on a solid platform of nap reform and increased treaty scratching posts. He won the election fair and square. That's not the point. Tilax slammed a tentacle on their podium. Humanity isn't just spreading through space. You're changing everyone you meet. The Vexcar Empire, once the most feared military force in the galaxy, now hosts a cooking show. Their ratings are excellent, James pointed out. And their pizza battle ration fusion cuisine is surprisingly popular. The hive mind of Betelgeuse has developed individual personalities. Tilax continued. They're arguing over which human music genre is superior. "K-pop is clearly superior," muttered a Betelgeusian drone in the gallery, drawing angry buzzes from the jazz faction. "We must contain this," Tilax declared. "We must establish quarantine protocols before." They were interrupted by the chamber doors bursting open. The Vexcar Supreme Commander strode in, still wearing his Kiss the Cook apron. "Sorry I'm late," he announced. "Was filming a special episode. Now, who wants to try my new recipe? It's called Peace Through Pasta. I combine traditional war rations with something humans call mac and cheese." Tilax's tentacles drooped in defeat. "You see." The mighty Vexcar, reduced to being happy, Abby suggested. She walked to the center of the chamber, giving Mr. Whiskers a scratch behind the ears as she passed his official gubernatorial hologram. That's what you're really afraid of, isn't it? Not that we're changing people, but that they're enjoying the change. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Beetle's kitten chose that moment to meow loudly, drawing automatic awes from several species that didn't even have the biological capacity to make that sound. Look around, Abby continued. The lithoids are learning to create beauty. The Centaurians are embracing comfort. The Vexcar have discovered there's more to life than conquest. Even you. First speaker, you've been tapping your tentacles to human music this entire session. Tlax froze mid-tap, suddenly conscious of their rhythmic movement to what sounded suspiciously like staying alive. Face it, Abby smiled. The galaxy's not being contaminated by humanity. It's being introduced to joy. Now, who wants to try the commander's pasta? As council members lined up for pasta, Mr. Whiskers signed his first executive order as governor. Mandatory belly rubs for all citizens. Somehow, it passed unanimously. The Galactic Council's containment protocols were filed away, buried under growing stacks of recipe exchanges, playlist recommendations, and pet adoption forms. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly the point. 10 years after the infamous pasta proclamation, in the council chambers, Abby stood on the observation deck of humanity's first intergalactic cultural center. Below her, species that once feared each other now mingled freely in what essentially amounted to the galaxy's biggest shopping mall. Remember when they wanted to quarantine us? James appeared beside her, gray touching his temples now. Hard to believe that was the same galaxy. Dr. Roberts, a young Vexcar, rushed up, wearing the uniform from the newly established Galactic University of Arts and Sciences. You won't believe what we discovered. When you combine human heavy metal music with traditional Vexcar war chants. Let me guess, Abby smiled. You've started a band. We're called Plasma and Power Chords. The students' scales rippled with excitement. We're opening for the Betelgeuse K-pop group next week. The Cultural Center's main atrium exemplified the new galactic order. A lithoid crystal being carefully tended their rock garden, while discussing philosophy with energy beings who had manifested physical forms specifically to try ice cream. The Centaurian Battle Fleet's gift shop did brisk business in plushies designed to survive vacuum exposure. Incoming priority message, her AI assistant announced. Governor Whiskers' IA requires your input on the new trans-species adoption initiative. Mr. Whiskers' daughter had won the last election in a landslide, primarily running on a platform of expanding nap zones into the Gamma Quadrant. Political dynasties, it seemed, were one human tradition the galaxy had embraced wholeheartedly. Ambassador Roberts. The Supreme Commander's voice boomed across the atrium. He was older now, his scales showing distinguished patterns of gray, but his kiss the cook apron remained eternal. You must try my latest creation. I've combined your Earth sushi with Antarian plasma fruits. I call it fusion food. Before Abby could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Red emergency lights pulsed as a massive unknown ship dropped out of hyperspace nearby. Classification impossible, the defense AI announced. Design matches no known species. Origin, Andromeda Galaxy. The mysterious vessel, bigger than anything in known space, broadcast on all frequencies. Your chaos spreads. Your disorder infects. We come to restore perfect order to. They were interrupted by the Galactic Council's standard response to first contact situations, developed after years of human influence. A welcome basket containing cookies, a kitten, and a Netflix subscription. Should we be worried? James asked, watching the massive ship hang in space. Give it time. Abby replied. 3 hours later, the Andromedans sent their second message. What is this Brooklyn Nine-Nine? And why can't we stop watching? Within a week, the Andromedans had their own cooking show. You know what the real victory is, Abby said later, sitting in her office. The walls were covered with photos from the past decade. The first Vex-Car Comedy Festival, the Lithoid Human Collaborative Art Exhibition, Governor Whisker's inauguration, the Centaurian plushie design competition. That we survived, James suggested. That we made everyone else more themselves, she corrected. The Vex-Car didn't stop being warriors. They just learned to create as well as conquer. The Lithoids didn't abandon logic. They added beauty to it. We didn't change who they were. We just showed them they could be more. Her desk computer chimed. The daily report showed thousands of interspecies cultural events across known space. Movie nights, game tournaments, cooking classes, art shows. The Andromedans had already scheduled their first stand-up comedy night. Breaking news, the station's AI announced. The Galactic Council has just passed the Universal Fun Initiative, requiring all member species to take at least 2 vacation days per standard year. The Vex-Car delegation celebrated by starting a conga line. Abby looked out at the stars, now filled with ships carrying culture and cuisine instead of weapons and war. Somewhere out there, Governor Whisker's Aya was probably signing a bill to make laser pointer chasing an official sport. You know what's funny? She mused. They tried to contain us because they thought we'd destroy their way of life. Instead, we taught the galaxy how to live. In the distance, a Vex-Car battle cruiser flew past, its hull painted with rainbow colors for the upcoming Pride Parade. From its speakers, a mix of heavy metal and war chants echoed through space, accompanied by the unmistakable sound of purring. The galaxy had sworn no more after facing humanity once. Instead, they got everything, and discovered that was exactly what they needed.